Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast. Jessica Donovan here. Thank you for joining me today. I have a very special guest today who is our brand new naturopath here at Natural Super Kids, Sarah Worboys. And this really is an introduction to Sarah, so you can learn more about her as a person and also her as a naturopath. Where her passion came from, what her interests are, what her personal approach is as a naturopath, and then a bit of personal information about her family. We talk about what she's enjoying about parenting and what she's challenged by when it comes to parenting at the moment. It really is a lovely chat with Sarah. And Sarah is an experienced naturopath who combines traditional naturopathic care with evidence-based complementary medicine. As you will hear, she's got a very down-to-earth approach which focuses on achievable, safe and effective treatments that will guide you in finding balance and good health for your whole family. So Sarah's a mum of 3 and she has a special interest in children's health, with a lot of experience helping families navigate things like allergies, eczema, infections, digestive and mood issues. She's also passionate about women's health and provides practical support for mums struggling with fatigue, stress, hormone and thyroid imbalances, just to name a few. She's also a passionate cook and a professional whole food cook. She's got experience making ferments commercially, recipe development, menu planning, and tailoring dietary needs. I will put it over to Sarah in just a second, but I also just wanted to say that we really put Sarah and the other applicants through the ringer in terms of the application process for this position as consulting naturopath and supporting our members here at Natural Super Kids, because we really wanted to find the right person. And so what we loved about Sarah was, one, her extensive experience consulting, and 2, just her nature. She's warm, she's down to earth, she's empathetic, she's calm, and you will hear that in this interview. So Sarah is now offering consultations here at Natural Super Kids online, and you can head on over to our website, to our book a consultation page, to read more about Sarah and to book in an appointment with her. And you will be hearing from Sarah fairly regularly here at Natural Super Kids as well. So I will pop the links to our website and the book an appointment page in the show notes of this episode. And I think you'll enjoy this chat with Sarah. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, Jess. It's great to be here.
So let's get into it. I'm excited to find out a bit more about you as well during this little conversation. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into naturopathy, and really what drew you to this modality.
Yeah, look, I think I got interested in health and healthy eating in my late teens. I moved to Sydney with my mum when I was 18, and we came and stayed with family when we moved to New South Wales. And I remember pulling a book off Nan's bookshelf, and it was just a Reader's Digest book, but it had all different about nutrition and just healthy eating. And from that point, I decided to become vegetarian. And so I think I just developed an interest in nutrition from that point on. I could cook from an early age. I would often spend weekends cooking. Mum was a great cook. Our family gatherings, it was always around what are we going to eat? And so I think that my love of cooking and interest in cooking then developed into an interest in nutrition. I actually decided to go to art school first. So I did a few years at art school. And in that time, I had my first share house experiences, and we lived in Newtown, and we shopped organically. We shopped at the local food co-op. We had a beehive. We had chickens.
Wow.
So from that early, and that's how I've continued to sort of eat and live my life, local food as much as possible and organic where it's possible. So that's probably where my interest began, around nutrition and cooking. And then just one day Mum called me up and she said, I heard about this course in Sydney, and I'm just wondering, are you still interested in naturopathy, or would you be interested? And I just remember thinking on the phone, yes, 100% yes. And so I just went and enrolled and was really fortunate to have their support so I could do the course, and just remember enrolling and loving it. Just fell in love with the potential of naturopathy and how herbal medicine and nutrition can just really transform health and keep us well and treat illness. So, yeah.
Wow, that's so great. And I always love hearing, people's backstories and how they were drawn into what they're doing today. And it just had so many similarities to my story. I became interested as a teen, and also had a stint where I was vegetarian. I wasn't a very healthy vegetarian. I think I got a lot of awareness of the potential nutrient deficiencies. For me, I started fainting a lot in my late teens, and it was because my iron level was so low. But yeah, lots of similarities that I can relate to in your story. And I love that sort of love of cooking. And it sounds like your mum was sort of integral in your decision to become a naturopath and your passion as well.
Yeah, she was. She was my first, patient and
yeah, that's so good. All right. So when it comes to naturopathy, obviously, it's quite broad. There's a lot of modalities under naturopathy. And here at Natural Super Kids, we mainly focus on nutrition and herbal medicine, and of course, lifestyle and environment and that sort of thing. But when it comes to naturopathy in general, do you think there's any myths that need debunking?
I think it's a really good question. And I was thinking, I think that because I've worked in health food stores as well, and get to hear like what the current fads are. So as soon as there's something in a magazine or on the TV show, people are coming in inquiring about that. And I think the myth that needs debunking is that there's not one cure-all, not one magic pill or herb or amino acid or something. Yeah, and I think that, generally when we're sort of looking at chronic illness, that it's a long and slow approach is what actually works in the end. And while you might feel desperate for something magic to happen very quickly, magic can happen quite quickly when you change some things in your lifestyle and take some appropriate medicines. But generally, the one pill fix all approach just doesn't work.
Yeah, and we're really just mirroring what the pharmaceutical kind of approach is as well, aren't we? When we're doing that. I remember when I used to work in a pharmacy, yeah, and there'd be like a current affair sort of snippet on a particular, like miracle cure for arthritis or whatever. And yeah, the next day there would be so much kind of so many people asking about that. So I love that. And it really is, as naturopaths, we are looking at the person as a whole. So even when it comes to particular conditions or symptoms, yes, there'll be particular, considerations or remedies or minerals or whatever it might be that will be helpful, but it's not necessarily going to be helpful in that particular case, which is why so important to have the support of a consulting naturopath as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I love that, and I agree that definitely is something that needs debunking when it comes to naturopathy. So as I said before, naturopathy is very a broad kind of field with lots of modalities. So what's your personal approach as a naturopath, and are there any other modalities that you weave into your work?
Yeah. I think, part of what I love about being a naturopath is being with people and hearing their stories. So I do love, looking for the clues and putting the pieces of the puzzle together. What makes them tick, and what's going on underneath the surface that needs addressing. I think I'm pretty grounded and down to earth. I also really love research. So, and especially when, research comes out that validates traditional, medicines, that's always a bit of a thrill. I also really love making things easy for people. I don't want them to feel more overwhelmed uh, after they see me. I want them to feel less overwhelmed and feel that they've got a path and a direction forward. Um, and in terms of modalities, I really love traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic philosophies. And I feel like, those philosophies help inform me um, around people's constitutions and the food philosophies, especially around traditional Chinese medicine, blood building foods, for pregnancy and breastfeeding and blood loss, and like the Ayurvedic philosophies, the doshas, the different, body types, and, you'd possibly prescribe a pitta person who is sort of a bit hot with cooling things, and you wouldn't prescribe that for a different um, constitution type. So I feel like those philosophies help inform my prescriptions.
That's very beautifully said, and I think yeah, like weaving those in. We've got so many different little tools and things that we can use. And as when we study as naturopaths, we kind of learn, lots of these different things, sometimes in little snippets, but then we can go on to do more, research or more training in these particular areas. So it's good, I think, for people to know a bit more about how you work. And I love that you said, that you love listening to people's stories, because we get so many clues as naturopaths, don't we, from little snippets that people share in terms of what's happened in history, or where they might have lived, or what their parents did for a living, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and there's often penny dropping moments in the consults. And I think because our consults are longer, there's that time to sort of go back over a little story, or just delve in a bit deeper with some more questions around a particular event or time frame. So yeah, lots of inquiry. I love that.
Yes. And what I've noticed about you, I mean, we've only been working together a very short period of time because you've just only joined the team, but you're very thorough, which I think
Okay.
is a really an amazing kind of trait to have as a naturopath, because there are a lot of things that we need to consider. So, having that real thorough approach and looking at all of the different pieces of information, is going to always give us a better result. So,
Yeah.
that's something I've noticed. So you're also a mum. Let's move into a little bit of personal stuff, because I think it's great for people to get an insight into you as, a more than just a naturopath. So can you share a little bit about your family and what you enjoy about being a mum?
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 kids, and ranging from my eldest is 16 and my youngest is almost 8. Um, we live on the coast, south coast, New South Wales. We've also got a dog, George,
Mhm.
and 3 guinea pigs, Cinnamon, Nutmeg, and Chai.
Ah, of course, naturopaths, guinea pigs.
They're so cute. I find our animals just give us so much joy and comfort to the kids. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, we, have a pretty, we both work, kids go to school, homeschooling one at the moment. Yeah. Um, and what I love about being a mum, well, I was reflecting last night around that, and thought of something that my mum and nan would often say to us. And, if they were going through a rough patch or whatever, mum would often say, well, we're lucky to have each other. We have each other. And I think, I always felt very loved and nurtured. And I think one of the things I love about being a mum is being able to pass that on to my kids. Um, and yeah, I guess it really is an honour and a privilege to care for 3 humans. And it's a big responsibility, and sometimes that feels overwhelming. But it's also, it's an honour. And, there's moments watching them grow and talk about their passions and observations of the world. And I think they're some of my favourite moments, those snippets of seeing how they're growing and what's going on in their world.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I think that is really true. In as kids get a bit older, because when they're little, it's all about kind of that sort of day to day care of them, isn't it? But as they get older, you can kind of share the world with them a bit more, and their personalities and interests and quirks and things really develop, don't they? I know I've found that as my kids have gotten a bit older. You can have sort of, deeper conversations with them if you
Yeah,
catch them at the right time.
yeah, that's right. When they're ready.
Exactly, when they're ready, exactly. But just what you said about, at least we've got each other, I think that is so timely, because I'm sure when people are listening to this, there are going to be a lot of people that are in lockdown, and they're at home with their families, and I think that's a really beautiful message for how the world is at the moment. Like, at least we've got each other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that's really lovely, and I know that's such a huge question. And some days it can be hard to remember what you enjoy about being a mum on those harder days. Oh, and so what about challenges? Like, what are you finding challenging as a parent at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think, that's definitely comes and goes in waves. And some days, like, a big challenge, or, sometimes the little things are challenging. The constant cleaning up after everyone, or the picking up the rubbish that they've left on the couch, but then the bigger challenges can just really throw me. Like probably the as the kids get older, like you were just saying, the day-to-day things when they're smaller, it's about the routine and getting them fed and activity. And then as they get older, the emotional care feels bigger and feels a big responsibility to make sure that I'm doing it well, I guess. And riding those waves with the kids, I think that's probably the most challenging thing for me. And just like, because when you're in a big wave, you don't feel like it's going to pass. Well, me, I don't feel like it's going to pass. And, I often have this sense of like, oh, why is it always like this? But the reality is that it's not. It's not always like this, and it will pass. And to ride those waves with some kind of remembering of that, that's, my reminder to myself. And sometimes I remember and sometimes I don't, that it's going to pass. But did that come out right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes it makes a lot of sense. And I agree that emotional, the emotional needs of kids feel bigger as they get bigger. And in the teenage or the tweenage and teenage years, that can be really big to kind of manage, and managing all the different moods in the house. I mean, I've only got 2 children, but some days I think, especially when we're all home together, the four of us. And this was especially apparent when we were traveling around Australia in a little camper. Like, most days one person was in a bit of a down mood. So it's trying to juggle and balance all of those needs, isn't it? Can be really tricky.
Pete and I have often joked that, like we're effectively in a 5-person share house, but we're doing all the work and all the cooking and all the cleaning, and sometimes that just doesn't feel very balanced.
Yeah, the kids are the lazy housemates, aren't they? And I relate to that as well, because I lived in quite a few share houses when I was younger, and there'd always be the 1 or 2 people in the share houses that weren't pulling the weight, that weren't cleaning the bathroom when it was their time. And kids really are like those lazy housemates. Oh, I've never thought of it like that. All right. So thank you for sharing, a bit of that personal insight. So just lastly, I would love to ask you, and this is a big question as well, what would be your top maybe 3 naturopathic tips for parents to keep their kids healthy? I mean, there's so many things that we can be doing and changing, and it can feel really overwhelming. So I'd love to dive into your sort of top 3.
Yeah, well, I hope this isn't too controversial, but the first one I'd say is ditch the processed cereal.
Yes.
I know it's really important to have breakfast, and sometimes, you don't have time to cook every morning, and cereal's quite an easy stopgap. But I just feel, like things like rice bubbles or Nutrigrain or those sorts of things just really don't have enough sustenance to get you even through to morning tea properly, not enough protein, lots of sugar, and I just feel like it sets the day up for more hunger, more cravings, less stable energy. And lately, I mean, we've had cereal at home. Often when Pete does the shopping with Daisy, a box of rice bubbles will come home.
That sounds familiar in my house too. Good old dads.
Yeah. And but lately what I've been doing, because she's actually been having a bit of on and off tummy pain for a while, and I'm like, okay, we need to get on top of this. And so we've been having French toast with wholemeal bread and a bit of strawberries. That's got an egg in it.
Yeah, you're getting a
Wholemeal bread,
protein. Kids are
fruit.
happy because it's a yummy breakfast too.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty easy to knock up.
Yeah.
Or a smoothie, and then you can always add extra bits and pieces to the smoothie, a little bit of linseed oil or linseeds, strawberries, raspberries, little bit of honey, and any, sorts of milk that you have. That's what we've been doing here, and yeah, it's going well, which is good.
Yes, I love that. And that is a really specific, practical, simple. I know for a lot of families it can feel overwhelming, like, how do I get rid of that box breakfast cereal? But yeah, like you said, coming up with an alternative that is a healthier option and the kids are happy with, like French toast, that really doesn't take a lot of time. You just got to sort of, whip up some eggs and dip the bread in and yeah, fry it for a couple of minutes. It really doesn't take a lot of time. So I love that one.
Yeah. And so another one I've got is sleep. So just I know sleep is, especially in the early years, can be quite tricky. A lot of, bed swapping. That's what happened in our house.
Yeah.
A lot of parents talk about that, changing beds in the night. But just as a start, having that sort of regular routine, and if you're out of a routine, it can take a little while, but kids do respond to routines and baths, books, showers, just that down unwind time before bed, and then there's other things you can do. Like, some magnesium if they're sort of struggling to unwind. And then, like, looking at dietary habits as well during the day. Herbs can be, some that might help some people, but everybody's happier when they've slept well, aren't they?
I think, yeah. And I think it's a basic foundational one, but so super important because lack of sleep affects everything, doesn't it? I mean,
mood,
yeah.
how they socialize, how we socialize, their appetite, what they want to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, coping mechanisms. And I love this because, I think when kids are littler, most parents are in a good routine with putting their kids to bed. But as kids get a bit older, it can sort of be it can go out the window, that sort of bedtime routine. And lots of kids are, on screens until the very moment they they're trying to go to sleep. And then it's like, well, why can't they go to sleep?
Yeah.
They've had all of this, stimulation. So even just something as simple as a shower, a bit of, turning the TV off before bed, or at least like little screens off before bed, and having a bit of family connection time, whatever that routine might look like in your house. But yeah, sleep's a big one. And I think it's overlooked. Like, even though it's a basic foundational need, it can be overlooked and can negatively affect so many aspects of our well-being and our kids' well-being. So yeah, love that one too. And what's your number 3?
So this one is just about being with your kids. So it doesn't have to be very long, but just a moment. And if you are at home with them when they get home from school, I've done it, been on my phone, and just, I guess, making an effort to be present, to say hi, how was your day, put your device away. Sometimes I just really love sitting on the couch and watching a movie with them, and they just snuggle in, and it's also a nice way to connect. Like, I mean, you don't always have to talk or have a connection that way. You can do it in other ways. Just have them in the kitchen with you while you're cooking. Just give them some moments in the day when you're really present with them.
Yes. And I think that being present is the key, isn't it? Because we can be multitasking and doing so many different things. And yeah, like so just really focusing on that presence when you do have time with the kids and making that a priority as well. Again, as they get older, they get busier. They don't necessarily seek you out as much. So you have to be more kind of proactive in that, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. And I think especially it is tricky, I notice in myself when I'm feeling stressed or have a lot of things on my mind, that it's harder to make myself have that time and just to be present. But yeah, I just have to force myself, put my phone away or just stop whatever it is I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's putting the devices away. They're so distracting, aren't they?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that something just came back to me, and this was a while ago that I read this, but I think it was a blog post or something, and it was a lady talking about make sure your eyes light up when your kids are coming to you for the first time, whether it's when they're waking up in the morning or whether they're coming home from school, because sometimes it's like, oh no, they're home. I've got to finish this. I've got to finish this work. Or, oh no, they're up. And so they feel that, if they're coming into a room and it's like we're disappointed to see them, which, we just want to kind of get something finished before. Yeah. And that just, when I am present and I'm mindful, I always make sure, I work from home. So I've got an office and my daughter will come home from school and she'll walk in, and I always just make sure I turn right around from my computer and, embrace her. And I've got that I'm mindful of making her feel like I'm happy to see her, which I am, but that, really making that obvious for kids, I think, is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're beautiful. So, ditching, just to summarize those 3 tips: ditching the processed cereal, making sure your kids are getting that good quality sleep and enough sleep, and that connection with our kids and our family. So important. And again, so easy to kind of let slide as we get busier. But really important for our kids' mental and emotional well-being to make sure that they're feeling, connected to us.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Well, it's been lovely having a chat with you, and Sarah will be coming onto the podcast again. And so we've got some, other topics and things that we will definitely be addressing. But I think that was a really good intro to you both personally and professionally. And you can go over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com. On the book an appointment page, you can find out more about Sarah and how to book an appointment with Sarah. She has been thrown in the deep end here at Natural Super Kids with lots of bookings immediately. So thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah, and sharing a piece of you with us.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.